Billionaire pretends to be asleep, a plan in motion to test the honesty of his cleaning lady's young daughter. And what happened next would leave him frozen in disbelief. The office safe lay wide open, stacks of cash spilling out like mountains of temptation, enough to buy a lifetime most could only dream of. Thomas sat in his leather armchair, unmoving, breathing slow and steady, his half-open eyes fixed on every small movement in the room. Little Jasmine, barely 6, walked in clutching her mother Diana's hand. The pair had come for the night shift, just as they had for the past 2 years. Her tiny pink gloves, a gift from Diana, made her feel grown-up and helpful, even during school holidays. Thomas had orchestrated this moment down to the last detail. After discovering that his partner had siphoned $3 million, his faith in people had been shattered. At 45, he had built a global empire, but now, he wondered if honesty existed at all. The test was simple: leave temptation in plain sight and see who could resist. Diana started dusting the shelves, her focus absolute, while Jasmine, curious and bold as any child, wandered toward the open safe. Her eyes glittered at the sight of wealth beyond imagination. Thomas held his breath, ready to witness another disappointment. But what happened next stopped him cold. Jasmine didn't touch a single bill. Instead, she noticed the chaos of the stacks and began sorting them meticulously, stacking denominations with the precision of a miniature accountant. Her little hands moved like sacred instruments. "Mommy," she whispered softly, "Mr. Thomas's money is messy. I fixed it, just like you taught me to do with our coins at home." Diana spun around, startled. "Jasmine, you can't touch the boss's things." "But it was messy, Mom. He'll be happy when he sees it tidy." Thomas felt something inside him twist, a warmth, a rush of something long forgotten. A child who had probably never held more than $20 had organized a fortune, and did so with transparency so pure it almost hurt to watch. What Thomas didn't know was that this small act of innocence would set off a chain reaction that would transform his life and expose truths about prejudice, kindness, and integrity he had never imagined. If you think a 6-year-old can teach a billionaire a lesson in humanity, subscribe now. This story is only beginning, and the lessons ahead will prove that wisdom often comes from the most unexpected sources. In the following weeks, Thomas observed Diana and Jasmine discreetly. He learned that Diana worked double shifts, cleaning his offices at night, then a doctor's office by morning. Jasmine always followed, doing homework quietly or playing softly as her mother worked. What impressed Thomas most was the moral guidance Diana gave her daughter. "We always return what isn't ours, even when no one is watching. Honesty is worth more than all the money in the world." Diana had grown up in foster care after losing her parents at 9. She had juggled work and school, barely scraping through high school, never affording college. At 22, she became pregnant with Jasmine. The father vanished. Since then, she had supported her daughter alone, never accepting charity. Thomas, moved by her integrity, began secretly increasing her salary, disguised as a routine category adjustment. But not everyone was blind to this change. Richard Blackwood, the 50-year-old vice president used to privilege, noticed the movement during a meeting. "Thomas, why waste extra money on cleaning staff? Especially her," he scoffed. "Diana is excellent at her job," Thomas replied calmly. Richard laughed dismissively. "You know where they belong. Give them a coin, and soon they'll expect the vault. It's in their nature." His prejudice was tolerated because of his inherited shares, but he didn't stop there. And that child? Totally inappropriate. What kind of mother exposes her kid to this environment? Clearly, she has no family structure. That evening, Thomas watched a confrontation that sparked a fury he hadn't felt in years. Richard cornered Diana in the hallway. "Listen carefully," he sneered. "I know you're getting more than you deserve. Whatever favors you're doing, it ends now. And get that child out of here. This isn't a daycare." Jasmine hid behind her mother, terrified. Diana hugged her protectively. "I'm just doing my job," she said calmly. "Your job is to clean and be invisible." Thomas watched, heart racing. Richard had crossed a line. Not only had he insulted Diana, but he had frightened an innocent child. That night, Thomas decided he could no longer stay silent. Richard's arrogance had revealed his true self, and Thomas had the power and the means to stop him. Unknown to Richard, Thomas had recorded the entire encounter. The very security system Richard had approved now captured his poisonous words. But Thomas wanted more than evidence. He wanted Richard to be publicly humiliated, destroyed by his own arrogance. Each insult Richard hurled only fueled something long dormant in Thomas, a drive for justice. Every act of contempt became a step toward his reckoning. And what Richard didn't realize was that a billionaire protecting an innocent family could be the most dangerous adversary imaginable. The next morning, Thomas made a call that would change everything. "Marcus, I need your services again," he said. On the line was Marcus Chun, former FBI investigator and corporate case expert. They had worked together on embezzlement cases before. "What kind of trouble now, Thomas?" Marcus asked. "The kind that involves systemic abuse, power, and corruption. I need rock-solid evidence against Richard Blackwood." Marcus chuckled on the other end of the line. "That daddy's boy? Easier than taking candy from a baby. Guys like him always leave a trail." Meanwhile, Richard escalated his campaign of psychological terror against Diana. On Monday, he stormed into human resources with a fabricated list of violations. This employee has been chronically late. He lied to Sandra Miller, a competent HR director in her 40s. And that child she brings, causing disturbances. Sandra hesitated, sensing something was off. Diana had never been late once in 2 years. "Mr. Blackwood, I need to verify the records," she said cautiously. Richard waved her off arrogantly. "Records can be altered. I'm the vice president. My word should suffice." Unknown to him, Thomas watched every exchange through the security cameras, recording every deceitful word. The very system Richard had installed to monitor productivity now captured his lies. By Wednesday, Richard crossed an even more dangerous line. He blocked Diana in the parking lot, sneering, "I know you're doing more than cleaning to earn that extra money. What kind of special services are you providing?" Diana's hands trembled with anger and fear. "Sir, what you're implying," Richard cut her off. "People like you always have a price. I'm curious what yours is." Jasmine hid behind her mother, whispering, "Mommy, why is he being mean?" Diana knelt, her voice steady and calm. "Some adults are unhappy, sweetie, and they try to make others unhappy too." Richard laughed cruelly. "Unhappy? I have more money in this wallet than you two will see in a lifetime. You should be scared of me. People like you have to know their place." Thomas watched the replay that night, controlled fury simmering with every word. Marcus had arrived with a preliminary dossier confirming what Thomas feared. Richard had a long history of bullying Black and Latino employees. 3 lawsuits, Marcus pointed out. Never resolved. Pattern? Systematic humiliation until the person quits. And he's never punished. Daddy pays, and the boy moves to another company. Richard Blackwood is a professional parasite. Thomas absorbed every page. This wasn't just prejudice. It was calculated, repeated abuse fueled by wealth and privilege. "Marcus, I want it all. Calls, emails, social posts, behavior patterns. Everything." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Big plan, huh?" Thomas's voice was cold, unwavering. "Justice." Thursday, Sandra approached discreetly. "Mr. Mitchell, Richard's trying to fire Diana. No legal grounds, but he suspects there's something personal." Thomas feigned surprise. "Personal pressure?" Sandra hesitated. "He suggested people like her shouldn't be in administrative areas after hours. I suspect discrimination." Thomas saw the opening he needed. Document everything officially. Open an internal investigation. That night, Thomas launched Phase 2. IT installed extra microphones in all areas Richard frequented. Officially, security upgrades. In reality, a digital trap. By Friday, Richard believed he was untouchable. Alone in the office, he made a call, whispering, "Dad, the cleaning lady's becoming a problem. I need you to create legal trouble, suspicion of theft, paperwork issues, anything to make her quit." His father's voice echoed through the line. "Are you overreacting? She's just a cleaning lady." Richard snapped. "It's principle. If they get comfortable, they'll demand rights they don't deserve. Better to act first." Thomas listened, every word a thrill of cold satisfaction. Richard had confessed conspiracy and racial discrimination, caught in his own arrogance. Monday, Marcus arrived with a briefcase full of evidence. Richard has private posts, supremacist manifestos, group chats mocking Black employees. He's sabotaged candidates at other companies for 15 years, systematic discrimination. Thomas's eyes narrowed at screenshots. Keep those monkeys in their place, show them who's boss. Marcus added, he's planning something against Diana this week. A staged theft. Thomas's blood ran. Plant something expensive in her supplies. Humiliate her publicly, Marcus explained. But Thomas only smiled grimly. Perfect. Let him try. Every cruel act Richard made was now feeding the trap. A billionaire with infinite resources, protecting an innocent family, was the last person Richard expected to face. Tuesday arrived, and Richard executed his plan with the arrogance of someone untouchable. At 8 p.m., Diana and Jasmine arrived. Hidden in the cart, a $15,000 Rolex waited. 15 minutes, Richard muttered, monitoring via security cameras. Then I catch her red-handed. Unseen, Thomas watched every high-resolution monitor. Marcus was in the parking lot with recording equipment. 3 investigative journalists waited outside. He just planted the watch, Thomas whispered via radio. Extra cameras are live. At 8:20, Richard descended, flanked by 2 security guards, feigning a routine check. Mrs. Diana, I need to inspect your supplies. Missing items reported. Diana froze. Mr. Blackwood, I don't understand. He moved theatrically to the cart. Ah, what's this? He lifted the Rolex as if it were treasure. Diana Jefferson, a $15,000 watch missing from Mr. Mitchell's office, found in your cart. Diana went pale. I've never seen this watch. Richard sneered. Of course not. It magically appeared here. Jasmine stood, trembling. Mommy, what's happening? Be quiet, child, Richard barked. Your mother must explain this to the police. One security guard dialed, exactly as Richard planned. At that moment, Thomas appeared at the office door with Marcus and 3 unfamiliar figures. I think you should hang up that phone, Thomas said calmly, a chill running down Richard's spine. Thomas, I'm glad you're here. We caught your employee stealing your watch, Richard said, trying to sound confident. Thomas laughed, a cold, echoing sound that filled the silent office. My watch? Richard, I've been wearing an Apple Watch for 5 years. I've never owned a Rolex. Confidence on Richard's face faltered, flickering into panic. What are you saying? He stammered. Thomas leaned forward. We just recorded you planting a watch this morning to frame Diana. And we have the receipt right in her cart. Marcus stepped in, swiping through high-definition footage on a tablet. Angle 1, Angle 2, Angle 3. Your face is clear in every shot, checking to make sure no one's watching. Richard tried to interrupt, but Thomas held up a hand. Oh, there's so much more. Marcus opened a digital file and projected a dossier onto a portable screen. First, Richard's racist posts in private groups. Need to keep these monkeys in their place, Marcus read aloud. Diana gasped, covering her mouth. Richard lurched toward the screen, but Thomas blocked him. And here, Marcus continued. Is your conversation plotting legal trouble for Diana? And your confession? Its principle, to prevent these people from getting comfortable. Richard's sweat beaded on his forehead. Where did you get this? He whispered. The security system you approved yourself, Thomas replied. Including your call to your father plotting against an innocent employee. One of the journalists stepped forward. Mr. Blackwood, Channel 7 News. Any comment on this evidence of systematic racial discrimination and conspiracy to fabricate criminal evidence? Richard's face drained of color. You can't use that. I have rights. Thomas smiled calmly. Of course, you have the right to remain silent, because anything you say will be used against you. By the police, who are already en route for conspiracy and defamation, by the press, the company board, and Diana's lawyers. Marcus continued. We also have 15 years of documented discrimination, 3 lawsuits hushed by Daddy, 8 employees you harassed until they quit. And, Thomas interjected, recordings of threats in the parking lot, and your disgusting sexual advances. The second reporter stepped forward. Mr. Blackwood, how do you respond to accusations of systematically persecuting minority employees? Richard tried to flee, but Marcus blocked the exit. Oh, I almost forgot, Marcus added with a smile. Your bank account was frozen an hour ago. Your family has been notified. The board convenes tomorrow morning to discuss your dismissal and possible legal action. Diana, who had remained in shock, finally spoke. Mr. Mitchell, did you know this would happen? Thomas shook his head gently. I knew Richard was prejudiced, but never imagined he'd try to destroy you with false evidence. When I found out, I decided it was time to act. Jasmine approached timidly. Mr. Thomas, will the bad man stop scaring Mommy? Thomas knelt to her height. No, sweetheart. He'll never bother you again. Richard made one last desperate plea. Thomas, we can settle this like gentlemen. My family has investments in the company. Thomas interrupted, calm and sharp. Until 20 minutes ago, when the board voted unanimously to buy all Blackwood family shares. Congratulations. You've ruined your career and your family's fortune. At that moment, police arrived. But it wasn't Diana who was arrested. Richard Blackwood was handcuffed, glaring at Diana. This won't stand. My family has influence. Marcus corrected him calmly. Until this morning, when all evidence was leaked to major media. Your father even requested removal from company contacts. A reporter turned to Diana. Ms. Jefferson, how does it feel to be vindicated and see your persecutor face justice? Diana looked at Jasmine, then at Thomas. Gratitude. For people willing to fight for justice when it would have been easier to ignore it. Thomas offered a smile. Diana, ready for that promotion? Tears in her eyes. She nodded. Jasmine clapped, still too young to fully understand, but sensing the triumph. Justice had been served in a way so complete, it would be remembered for generations. 6 months later, Diana walked through Mitchell Enterprises no longer as a cleaner, but as Director of Human Resources, a role Thomas created after discovering her unfinished business degree. Her first decision, implement a scholarship program for employees' children, with Jasmine as the first beneficiary. Mommy, can I show Mr. Thomas my new drawing? Asked 7-year-old Jasmine, running through the office that had become her second home. She dreamed of becoming a lawyer to help people, inspired by the lessons of honesty and courage she had witnessed firsthand. Thomas watched them, smiling. His company had become a national model for inclusion and diversity. The Fair Chance program had already benefited more than 200 families. Meanwhile, Richard Blackwood's world had collapsed. After 18 months in prison for discrimination and conspiracy, he emerged alone, ruined financially and socially. His family disowned him, his career destroyed. Once a vice president, he now sold used cars, earning less in a year than Diana did in 3 months. Dad, Thomas, Jasmine asked at dinner in their new home. The teacher asked us to write about our heroes. Can I write about you? Thomas's eyes glistened. The real hero is your mother, who taught you honesty is worth more than money. Diana squeezed his hand. No, the hero is the one who had the courage to fight when it would have been easier to ignore it. Weeks later, CNN aired a story about Mitchell Enterprises, highlighting Jasmine, Diana, and Thomas, showing how one little girl had transformed a corporate culture. Richard watched alone, helpless, as his old life thrived without him. 3 years later, on Jasmine's 10th birthday, Thomas announced the Jasmine Jefferson Educational Fund, providing scholarships to talented Black students for the next 50 years. Jasmine hugged him tightly. Thank you for believing in us when no one else did. Richard, meanwhile, struggled to find work. Every attempt failed as his past misdeeds followed him. His downfall became a case study in business schools, arrogance and prejudice destroying a career. Thomas realized that true revenge wasn't punishment, it was building something far greater. He turned a company into a beacon of justice, creating opportunities, inspiring generations, and proving that integrity and action triumph over hatred. The honesty of a 6-year-old taught me the best response to hatred, Thomas said at Harvard. It's love in action. Richard tried to bring us down, but he lifted us higher than we ever imagined. Today, Jasmine is on the path to Harvard. Diana holds an MBA and national recognition, and Thomas has been honored for championing racial equality. Richard remains alone, a cautionary tale of what happens when someone underestimates the power of decency and determination. True justice was never his imprisonment. It was showing that protecting the innocent, with courage and strength, builds legacies that inspire forever. If you were in this billionaire's shoes, with millions left right in front of you, what would you do? Could a child really teach a lesson that money can't buy? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's see who's honest enough to answer. And don't forget to subscribe to Black Nation Strength for more shocking, inspiring stories that show the power of honesty, courage, and heart. Hit that bell so you never miss a story that will leave you speechless.